the actual wonder of watching this thing that grew in my belly
Wild.
on wild, just like take on personality traits. And she was a super strong and feisty gal from the beginning. We love that. We love our gals to take up space. But just watching that develop, I think I just like it's such a state of wonder.
Welcome to In Her Words. This podcast is for women navigating through change, career, identity, motherhood, and just figuring out what's next. I'm Roberta Dombrowski, host of In Her Words and founder of Learn Mindfully. Each episode, I sit down with women who are asking big questions, navigating transitions, and trying to make sense of life as it shifts. You don't have to have it all figured out. You just need space to be real. Let's get into it. With me today, we have Jen Bokoff. Jen is a connector, agitator, idea mover, and strategist working to make philanthropy more inclusive and democratic. She currently is the Director of Development for the Disability Rights Fund and serves on the steering committee of the Human Rights Funders Network. She finds an immense joy in spending time with the family and friends and is proud of being a laughing girl on the B-roll of several long ago TV tapings. Welcome, Jen.
Thanks. Glad to be here.
Let's go ahead and dive in. So, one of the reasons I wanted to chat with you is just your background in philanthropy. You've had over a decade in this space. And I'm curious, was there a pivotal moment that led you to this work, to this area?
Wow, great question. When I was in college, I was able to take this class called Experiments in Philanthropy. And it was a really unique class where we actually had 10,000 real dollars to give out in the community. It was funded by Warren Buffett's sister, Doris Buffett, who was just like a really impressive woman in her own right. And this became a program of hers through the Sunshine Lady Foundation, where she was teaching philanthropy and the art of getting engaged in community by giving money to college classrooms to reinvest in their communities. So in that class, I learned both grant making and grant seeking. So it's also how I learned how to write a good grant proposal. And I always just thought philanthropy was really interesting and still do, because there's so many resources that are just locked up that really should and could be unleashed to turn dirty money into good money.
I love that, turning dirty money into good money.
All money is dirty.
Yes, yes, capitalism. Yeah. Is there a specific area? I know you're working in disability rights right now, but is there a specific area that you've enjoyed the most over the last few years that you've worked in?
I mean, disability rights has been so close to my heart in ways both personal and just as a part of communities I've been honored to be in. But for me, I'm really a generalist in every way. I think philanthropy could and should be more intersectional. So it's not disability rights isn't just disability rights. It's also about gender justice, climate justice, indigenous rights, et cetera. And so similarly, I really love seeing the incredible work of philanthropy all across the country and around the world that's working in a whole range of issue areas with a whole range of populations. And I think for me, like the thing I get most excited about is community leadership that we invest in for the long term and really trust to lead in the way that they see fit. Any of the paternalistic approaches to philanthropy don't resonate with me because it just doesn't seem very purposeful or the way to get things done.
Yeah, absolutely. It sounds like you really take a systemic lens when it comes to the work that you're doing. And it's not just like isolated boxes, but you're thinking about leadership, you're thinking about system structure, change, communities.
I think that's true, but I also try to look at what's right in front of me on a given day as well. So even when you look at the bigger picture, you also have to think about how am I mirroring that in my own life and in the things right in front of me. So for example, when I talk about really respecting organizations that live their values in every aspect of what they do, I also then have to look at my personal values and our organization's values and think, what do I, in my capacity as a human, as an employee, what do I have the power to do in this moment to change my practice to be more values aligned today? So both ends, like big systems thinking also has to be reflected in
Micro.
what you do day to day.
Yeah, that speaks to me as a coach and within my coaching work too, because I always talk about my own values and I'm working with organizations and I find like a lot of people that I work with too can sometimes feel burned out and unhappy, and usually it's because of like a values misalignment or a conflict. They're having to adjust their values or sometimes their ethics when they're in these different environments and workplaces, which is not sustainable in the longer term.
I think that's spot on. And honestly, I'm seeing more and more burnout. I don't know if I'm just noticing it more or if there actually is more burnout. I don't really know the answer to that, but I think the values alignment piece is so important because it creates all these micro conflicts throughout the day. Your body and mind are telling you one thing, and then outside forces, whether it's work or society, or saying something else. And it just creates all these micro conflicts that you have to work through. And that in itself is exhausting.
It's so exhausting. You are spot on. The burnout has been on the rise. There's been some Gallup studies that were released earlier this year about burnout. So it is something that we're seeing more and more, and likely, I think, to continue over time. We're in a loneliness epidemic, and I think that highlights it too and causes it as well.
And it's kind of a cycle too, where when you take time to then reach out to be more connected, that also takes energy and time, which bumps up against all the other things you have to do. And then that can also contribute to burnout. So it's all about finding this balance, which feels like the pot of gold at the end of a rainbow, something you hear about that we've never actually really found. But I think it's just a constant rejiggerizing of priorities and just like where you're spending different types of energy so that you're saving your positive energy for the things that fill your cup instead of empty your cup.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. I took this actually. I took this it was an ADHD burnout course last week, and it talked about how the burnout cycle actually can be amplified for people with ADHD, and the cycle is different. It's like you start with excitement and then you dive in and you're second guessing yourself and overloading tasks, and then it's a vicious circle. So, yeah, there's lots of different lenses on burnout for sure.
Wow, sounds like a powerful class though.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. We talked a little bit about values conflicts. I know that you recently became a mother to Eloise. I'm curious, what was that transition like? And did you see any transitions in your own values when you became a mom?
Wow, what a great question. And not one I've like fully had time to reflect on. So thanks for that. I mean, the transition was really interesting. I'm not someone who grew up or lived life imagining I'd become a mom. I didn't necessarily want to. It wasn't part of my picture. It didn't mean I didn't want to, but it wasn't this thing that I had long dreamt about. And we were really lucky this was a choice for us. A lot of people don't have a choice one way or another. And it took us years to come to this choice. And we were really fortunate that, Eloise arrived as easily as she did. But the birth experience itself was fairly unexpected and traumatic. I think everyone has their own version of that story. And so for me, like becoming a mom started with taking time to heal myself and my body. I think it took probably a good month before I was even meaningfully like doing all the things that you imagine you need to do as a mom. So being able to change the diapers, just spend all the time physically like holding her. I never breastfed, so the bottle feeding was fine, but it also meant that I wasn't the only one feeding her. And so even like building our systems and like rituals for that took time. And that was all like okay and fine by me, but it took time to really like find that like deep connection and that meaning. And we spend, I mean, I think our sweetest times were just sleeping next to each other because the becoming a mom on top of all of my chronic health things, I was just so excessively tired and like unable to really function. So I think one of the best things I did for myself was take 6 months off from work. I hate to like put things in a frame of work, but that's the reality that we live in, especially in the US. And I really advocated for a longer maternity leave and had enough enough in the bank to be able to take 6 months, including some unpaid. So it gave me the time to really just like come into this new identity with a lot of just like curiosity. And I don't use this word usually, but wonder. Like I think I've seen kids all around me. Most of my friends, a lot of family, we were kind of like on the end of the people in our circles having a kiddo. And so I've witnessed it, but the actual wonder of watching this thing that grew in my belly
Wild.
on wild, just like take on personality traits. And she was a super strong and feisty gal from the beginning. We love that. We love our gals to take up space. But just watching that develop, I think I just like it's such a state of wonder. And so when you ask about values, I I feel like I haven't quite put a name to it, but the art of just noticing is
Mm,
something that has risen to the surface for me. Like just I've always had curiosity as a value, but I think just being open to just noticing and observing what's happening and just taking that in, not having to have it mean anything or figure out the so what of it, but just appreciating it for what it is. So every time she blinks, or now every time she like does something new at the playground or says something funny, like yesterday Chris said she just started saying, "Oh my gosh." Like I just take that in with like wonderment, which I think is
yeah.
a value. And then, for me, joy has also always been a really critical leading value. And I think I've just taken that on in new ways where in the past, I've often seen joy as the value itself. And now, and something to like center and seek out. And now I've maybe repositioned it as the outcome of living other values like curiosity, connection, like growth and learning. That's a value that's really risen up for me, not just for her, but for myself too, like always being challenged to learn and grow in new ways. So I don't know if that fully answers the question, but that's
It does. Yeah, yeah. No, I'm hearing like just wonder and being present. And what you're describing about growing a baby inside of you and now they're outside of you. I look at my son all the time when we're like contact napping on the couch and I'm like, I don't understand. Like,
Yeah, when you just think like I grew those eyeballs, like those eyeballs grew, like what?
yeah,
What?
yeah, yeah, absolutely. But it's like I think one of the most exciting things I was looking forward to, me and my husband Scott talked about this before having a kid, is just like being able to experience things for the first time again because everything with children is a milestone and it goes so quickly too. It's like one week Augie's looking at his hands for the first time. The next week he's like balancing a ball and like playing with it. And it's like, it's just everything, every chapter, every milestone is so new and unique and changing at every moment. So,
Yeah, no, I love that descriptor of it, everything being a milestone. I mean, I one of her favorite things kind of throughout her 21 months on the planet has been buses. Like since we first took her on a bus at probably about 4 months. And even then, just like eyes wide, she's looking at everyone, she's smiling, she's laughing. Always loved the bus. Wheels on the Bus, favorite song. And so watching the way that she interacts with buses evolve and the way she sings the song, like she can now fully sing the song. And I'm like, what? Like, you didn't, how does that happen? And we ride the bus when we go to like the Cubs games, and she'll like wave at people and say, "Go Cubs, go" now. It's like that's what she thinks the babies on the bus say, because it's not whack a whack. Who wants a song where babies cry? We say the babies on the bus say, "Go Cubs, go."
I love it.
It's just so fun to see those. It's like the milestone evolves into another milestone and just like new ways of being and interacting.
Yeah, yeah, I love that. You mentioned you took an extended maternity leave for 6 months. Was your workplace supportive of like the extended leave? Because I know some workplaces, not necessarily. It's like you get your 2 months and it's It is what it is, and then you go back.
Yeah, it was a really interesting experience because we didn't actually have a parental leave
Oh,
policy.
wow.
And we were, I also work for a global organization where fortunately a lot of colleagues don't have the same challenges that we do stateside, where it's kind of just built in and assumed in many ways that, of course, you're going to be able to take a lot of time, the amount of time we should be able to take to be home with your kiddo. But we were creating a new policy and it had to make sense. And it had to make sense in line with our values. And it also had to make sense financially and in line with all the local rules and regulations, not just in every country, but in every state where we have employees. And when you get in the weeds on those things, it becomes a series of difficult conversations. And I think there were definitely some challenges I was up against, even about like the need for documentation. Like I wasn't comfortable with things that were just verbal because unfortunately, you just hear so many stories stateside of, one thing is said and then another thing is done. So I I would be lying if I said it was an easy process. It took many, many months of advocacy and conversations, but I'm ultimately really proud of like where the policy landed. And it is a mix of supported paid leave and unpaid leave. And it still actually relies on taking disability leave, which especially given the work we do, is kind of a challenging thing where it's not how we would frame it. We wouldn't call parental leave like disability leave, but given the structures in society and like what allows us to at least get partially paid, that's how we have to frame it. So there definitely were some bumps in the road and some challenges, but I was really happy when another colleague was able to take advantage of the policy that I helped to inform and also took 6 months. It was really cool to be able to see.
That's really cool within your organization that you had the ability to influence really the design of the leave program and what it's like for people moving forward. I've had some clients that are international and they're like, yeah, we get like a whole year off. Like, yeah, that would be ideal in the United States. Like, absolutely.
Yeah, yeah. I always say that, especially in like this sector I work in, the philanthropy sector, especially the subset of that sector that's focused on rights and grounded in movements. I think it's one of the biggest ways we don't live our values. Like, just when you look at the ways parental leave policies are designed, they just seem so out of alignment with values. And it seems like the frameworks of the US have taken like an outsized influence on those policies, and it would be so easy to course correct on, especially if some foundations like stepped up to say like we're going to be able to fund like your organization during like staff leaves or something. There's got to be an easier solution than just telling people to come back to work after 1 or 2 months.
Yeah, I feel like there is so much growth when it comes to motherhood and just the journey of it. And part of it is like, even myself, conceptually, I knew like motherhood, I was going to go through a change. Like, I was planning all of this stuff in pregnancy and then postpartum. Cognitively, theoretically, I knew it was going to happen, but there is so much to the lived experience and things that you don't expect or don't have plans. I always say like I had a great plan, but even from my water breaking, it went off the rails so quickly. And I feel like some of that, because it is so much of a live experience, a lot of people just don't understand, men in particular, but obviously we have great partners, but they just don't understand the journey. And it makes the practice of changing the system that much more difficult because they haven't been through it.
I agree with you on that. And I would expand it though too to like adoption and pregnancy loss and kind of all things tied to what it means to grow a family or even to take on new family responsibilities. I think that if we really look holistically at like the humans who we employ at organizations, like those are equally big milestones. I unfortunately know so many people who have experienced devastating losses who have to show up for work the next day and just suffer in silence. And we should have better laws, and when that's unlikely, especially in this country, better policies in our organizations and companies that support people taking the time that they need to heal in those cases, to adjust, as in the example of taking on new caregiving responsibilities. Like, I think the definition of like the way some people define expanding your family, like it's not all in the traditional way that people might understand that. And we need to make sure that everybody is covered by that, because I actually have seen so many instances where it creates an even bigger divide where, if we do understand maybe a traditional birth experience, but we're not understanding all the other permutations of like shifts in identity and the ways that like we're going through life, it can definitely have a big impact.
Absolutely. Absolutely. This is where I start to nerd out about design of systems and stuff like this.
As you should.
Yes. I'm curious, you talked about your leave and being able to have time with Eloise and the beautiful 6 months that you had. Was there anything that was really surprising or like, yeah, most surprising during that leave time?
Yeah, hands down for me, it was just how much I enjoyed it. Like, we had so much fun. We traveled a good amount, including a girls' trip, like just the two of us, to visit my aunt in Texas. And as part of that trip, I had one like free, like use it or lose it first class upgrade sitting in my American Airlines account. So I used it, and like we just had a blast on the plane. Like, she was only, I think, 4.5 or 5 months old. And she's just like kind of been a good time since the beginning. She's super curious, super active. I had a feeling that would be the case because she was very active in my belly in a way that a lot of my friends were like, no, I never felt that level of like kicking and thrashing. And anytime there'd be any sort of music on, it was like she was in a nightclub. It's hilarious because that's my nightmare. I don't do loud places with flashing lights, but I could see her enjoying it. So she's kind of just been a really good time and like very curious. I think I was also really surprised by like the things she just intuitively knew. So, for example, the first time I took her on the L, which, is Chicago's version of the subway or the metro or whatever you'd call
The
it in
tea,
any
yeah.
city, she reached out and just like held on to the bar with like a stoic look on her face. And she just sat like that for multiple stops. And like this woman who was sitting across from us, she started laughing and she was like, this girl knows how to ride the
It's
L.
not
Like,
her first lifetime. Yeah.
yeah, it was like she had this just intuition. It was just like really funny. And somehow she also then knew not to put that hand in her mouth, which I was so grateful for. But things like that, I think going back to the wonder, just being able to really take that in and just say, like, wow, like how cool is that?
Yeah.
I
Oh.
really just love that.
Everything you're saying is not surprising to me, knowing you as a person. The fact that she's lively and she came out like wanting to do a lot of things and very active. I wonder where she got those qualities from.
I mean, karma is something. She's she's super spicy and a little opinionated too. But I wouldn't have it any other way. And I mean, definitely the curiosity and her quickness, like her ability to learn. She definitely gets from Chris, and he's been teaching her really nerdy stuff, which I love. So like if you ask what kind of animal a kangaroo is, she goes marsupial. And it's just like so weird and so fun. So she's got a little bit of both of us, but definitely my extroversion.
Yeah, yeah, I love
Yeah.
it. After that amazing time with Eloise, the 6 months, what was it like to return back to work?
It was a whirlwind. I was ready for it. I will say
Yeah.
I have such deep respect for parents who are able to or make a choice to stay home with their kiddos. I honestly think it's incredible. I think I knew at the end of 6 months that that was not for me, and that my deep love for early childhood educators like would now apply to my kiddo. So I was ready in that sense. There wasn't any like sadness per se about it. We did something really interesting. I spent the first month after maternity leave at a co-working center here in Chicago structured for parents where there's childcare in one room, there's a cafe type setup, and then there's a quieter workspace. And so your kiddo is with awesome childcare professionals, but you're on site. And your responsibility is to spend lunch hour with them. So it was such a nice way for us to like acclimate to a new childcare reality. It got me out of the house and kind of back into a work rhythm, but also gave me this beautiful pause moment for an hour in the middle of the day where we went on lunch adventures. We'd go to a park, we'd walk around, we'd sit and talk to other parents and their kiddos. And sometimes I'd just go back into the play space and hang out with her there. So that was like a really nice transition. But work wise, it was a huge challenge because 24 hours after I came back, our executive director announced to our leadership that she was stepping down. And part of me wonders if she waited until I came back because it felt very, very quick, but I had to really like snap back real quick. There was no easing back in. There's an immediate like need to shape narrative, communicate to donors, just kind of get ducks in a row in a way that I didn't think I would have to right away. So it was a lot. And I think in looking back now, like over a year later, one of the things I didn't do that would have really helped was to almost like re-onboard myself. 6 months is a long time, and I came back to a different organization than the one I left. It was the same in mission and the core of the work, but the org chart was different, the power dynamics were different, the ways that we were doing certain systems and implementing certain policies and programs were evolving. And that's not good or bad. It just kind of is what it is. But you actually need time to adjust and to kind of be oriented to those systems and the new ways of being. And I didn't get that. And I think in reflecting on the first year back, it affected a lot. And that would have set me up to kind of like merge back in a little bit stronger.
I always talk about these two phases of like doing versus being as people. And like, it sounds like while you were on leave, you were in a lot of being. You were present with Eloise, you were being a mom. And then the shift immediately back to doing, back in work. It's like 0 to 100 really quickly.
You're so wise. I love that. Yes.
Thanks.
Yes,
That
yes, yes.
co-working space that you mentioned sounds, I feel like that is revolutionary. We need to have them in every city.
So smart. I honestly don't understand why it's not a more common model. There were certainly like some challenges to it. I know the woman running it also had like a full-time job outside of it, but the community has really taken off. And there's still some women from there who I met just sitting next to them on laptops who I'm still in touch with. And I was only there a month, but it was
Yeah,
amazing.
that's awesome. I always say that we heal in community with each other, and that that is one of the major things that I feel like with motherhood. Usually, like there's a village, there's a community, we are community based. Like speaking personally, my family is in a completely different state. My husband's family is in a completely different state, and so community looks a little bit different.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't agree more. Our mantra is it takes a village and we will totally tap that village. There's like when people have offered to help, I think for the first time in my life, I've really gotten comfortable saying like yes and like here's exactly what I need. I think for us, even though a lot of families outside the state and honestly a lot of friends are out of state too, we've just been so overwhelmed in a positive way by people reaching out saying like, how can I help? How can I show up? One of my dear friends, Shal, and her husband Roy like flew out. I like honestly only have flashing memories of their visit because it was still during like my early healing time. But they just sat and held Eloise and fed her and changed her diaper and got our dog Bowser out because having a dog is a whole other
Yep.
thing. And and it was just such a gift, not just for what it gave us, like in terms of space to breathe and adjust and like just kind of have an extra couple set of hands, but it also like formed a really nice bond that, even if she doesn't specifically remember that, like they met at such an early time and having like dear friends who get to watch your kiddo grow in all the stages. I just think there's like nothing more special than that.
It really is. Yeah. We had similar with my family that came in, and it's like, even now, it's like, I'm sure you send pictures of Eloise to your family, and it's like, what? It's a completely different human from when I saw her before.
Yeah, yeah. No, exactly. And I don't know if you can hear upstairs, but that little human is playing xylophone or something. She's not at daycare because she wasn't on pink eye drops. She wasn't on pink eye drops because she doesn't have pink eye. But she has to be on pink eye drops because they're worried about it spreading, and daycare rules are whack. So we've got our kiddo home for the second day in a row while we're also trying to work and do all the
Oh my
things. And
gosh.
that is the background noise that you hear. And I think, you know what, though, I share that like both as an apology, but also as a like, it is what it is. I think this has become kind of a funny, like new experience as like a mom who also works outside the house in the sense that she's coming down the stairs now. She's gonna want to say hi. And like that's just kind of how things go sometimes. And it's been a different way to like connect with colleagues around the world, many of whom are parents themselves. Hi, Eloise. Do you want to come have a quick cameo?
Hi, Eloise.
You want to say hi?
Hi. You're adorable.
Yeah. So she's perfectly not sick, but here.
Oh my gosh. Daycares make no sense.
They make no sense. Even though we love ours, she's at a Montessori and it's been a great experience. And I mean, the teachers look out for her. You like your teachers and your friends at school? Yeah. Okay. If you sit with mom, just like be chill. I'm talking with Miss Roberta. Okay. And otherwise, you can go play in the other room if you'd like.
Speaking of play, one of the questions I was going to ask you is, what does play mean to you now?
What does play mean to me now? I think I have refound my love for blocks and brio. Brio being like the trains, puzzles. Like those are like the literal parts of play, like with toys you can buy. But I think the most fun part of play has been, with no props at all or like the found objects. A box can become a hiding place, a box can become a hat, a box can become like a vehicle. It's really like anything. And we do a lot of like running around. Eloise really likes to run fast, and she likes to run fast and like chase our dog and then let the dog chase her. And then she wants me to get on board. She's picking up her yellow rain boots right now because part of play is jumping in puddles. We spend a lot of time jumping in puddles, even when it hasn't rained, meaning it's just stagnant, icky water dripping from the railroad tracks. We do a lot of that. So it's really just it's carrying through that thread of wonder and just like seeing the fun in wherever we are, whatever we could be doing. And if we don't see the fun, like creating it.
Yeah, yeah. I do have to say I was talking to Scott about this week of sometimes creativity comes out of having the space and like it's like you get bored, a little bit bored and you're like, what are we gonna do? This week I hit like peak millennial and I was singing in sync, no strings attached. I did like a whole performance for Augie because he was just so grumpy and
Yeah.
it's just like it's the dancing, it's the singing, it's the play, it's the whatever comes up in the moment.
Yes, you're reminding me of something fun that we do. We have a mirror. We're on the like Costco giant mirror trend. There's like this
Yeah.
one mirror that everyone talks about. We got the mirror. It's in our hall. Anyway, whenever we walk by it, we have to dance. Like that's the rule. So you just dance in the dance mirror. And so that's been really fun. And similarly, I mean, you sing and sync, I sing Broadway songs, even though I can't really carry a tune. But I introduced her to the Mamma Mia soundtrack, and now she points to me and goes, Mommy Mia. And like, it's just adorable. And yeah, that's like such a fun version of play and watching the different ways she like participates in that. And I don't know, it's just
Yeah,
such a
I
blast.
love it. Kind of pulling this thread a little bit more, I'm curious, are there any rituals that you practice to sustain you? Like you are a businesswoman, you're a mother, you're a wife.
Yeah. I mean, okay, so on the partnership front, something Chris and I have done for years and years and years, which I'm proud to say I only planted the seed of the idea, but it came from him, is before bed, we do highlight, low light, insight, gratitude, and haha. The haha is a new one. It came from our dear friends Lindsay and Jared and their kids because they do a haha before bed every night. But that's basically something that made you laugh that day. But that's a really nice ritual for checking in with each other because sometimes it's the most we get to say to each other during the day, just given how busy the days can go. So it's like a nice way to just kind of clue each other in and like have a touch base moment. And then for myself, I've started playing tennis more, which has been a really fun ritual just to get out of the house and like move my body and do something.
Yeah.
And I've started to like read again. It's been a long time since I read, and a conscious choice I made, even though there's so many amazing books out there of people who inspire me, people who I have a lot to learn from that I want to read. I don't read outside the workday about things that are heavy or too close to real life. So I've gotten on the romantasy bandwagon.
Oh,
Um,
Bridgerton.
yeah, yeah, doing all those things. And like, I don't know, like I'll read those books and I'll just like read fun short stories and just kind of go into like more of like the fantasy universe a little bit.
Yeah.
A bit of a way to like unwind at the end of the day as well.
I love that. I love that so much. I actually started reading Harry Potter for the first time like last year because I'd never read it before. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
why not?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
So fun.
Well, I could talk to you forever, but we do have to start to come to a close. If folks want to connect with you, what's the best way to get a hold of you?
You know, anti-ritual I've been doing, I used to check social media all the time. And I'm off Twitter or X, because it's not what it used to be. I don't really check Facebook much, but LinkedIn is the best professional place to connect me. I think I'm the only one in my name, so look for Jen Bokoff. And if folks are interested in supporting disability rights around the world, they can always get in touch with me through work. It's just J Bokoff, Bokoff, at disabilityrightsfund.org.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Jen.
Thank you, Roberta. You're wonderful.
Thanks for being here. If something in this episode landed with you, feel free to pass it along to someone who might need it too. You can leave a review, subscribe, or just keep tuning in. We're figuring it out together. And remember, your story, your voice, your becoming, it all matters.